Hey folks, Dr. D here with another segment of audio production. We're going to be talking about microphones, so let's go. In most recording studios you have several different types of microphones, and these microphones are basically one of the main tools that you're going to use to capture sound. Microphones can be used in such a way to EQ a sound before anything's done in post-production. So you can save yourself a lot of time if you understand the tone of a mic and you know what you want out of that sound. If you want more darkness or more brightness out of the sound, you can use a different type of mic to shape that sound and capture what you're looking for. Okay, so let's talk about the different types of microphones. The first microphone type we'll talk about is dynamic microphones. So for dynamic microphones, we've got four different styles out here today. We've got a Beta 52A, which is made by Shure. This is a bass drum, kick drum, bass microphone. These can be used on bass guitar amps. They can be used on kick drums as well, but this is a dynamic microphone that has a very low response to it. Frequency response can be found on any of the microphone boxes or the instruction manual, or you can look up online and see a frequency response curve for any microphone that pretty much exists. Another very, very common microphone and very versatile microphone is the SM57. These are used heavily on many things, from guitar amps, on drum kits, and for toms and snares, but this is like the standard workhorse of most situations, live or studio. These are very strong and bomb-proof microphones. Another microphone we have is the SM7B. This is your kind of broadcast style podcast microphone. This is also a wonderful dynamic microphone for vocal tracking. It's got a nice, warm, punchy sound that sometimes works a lot better on certain styles than maybe a high-end condenser mic would. A very versatile microphone, great for kick drums too. You can use this thing in many different ways. And then there's the SM58. This is a very common microphone for stage performance. This is your standard vocal mic you'll see at every bar or club on the stage. These things are pretty similar to the SM57, SM58. They're pretty similar microphones. The main difference is the cone, windscreen top of the microphone is a little bit more catered towards having your face on it in a live situation. But if you take the microphone apart, SM57s and 58s are basically almost the same exact design. So dynamic microphones are not as sensitive as other types of microphones like condenser microphones because they work on a basis of having a diaphragm, most like a drum head, and that diaphragm is connected to a coil, and that coil is wrapped between two magnets, and these magnets have a plus and minus wire connected to them. So as you vibrate that membrane by talking into it or playing guitar into it, that variance in voltage is how you convert the sound pressure levels from acoustic sound, moving air particles, into electrical signal. Alright, so next up we have condenser microphones. These are very useful for capturing acoustic instruments and the subtleties of and the nuances of a human voice or a violin or a guitar or something like that. Condenser microphones come in various shapes and sizes. There are large diaphragm condenser microphones like the Blue Kiwi and the AKG 414, and then there are small diaphragm condenser microphones much like the KM 184, Neumann's or Octavas or any of the other models and makes of these microphones. The deal with condenser microphones is they have a diaphragm, which is a very thin disc of a metallic material. It's very thin, and there's basically a plate diaphragm and there's another plate behind it, and these two metallic plates are essentially like 1/1000th of an inch apart. Condenser microphones function rather than with a magnet powering it. There is electrical charge that goes through here in 48 volts, so it's called phantom power, and you'll see on most mixing boards or interfaces there will be a phantom power or 48 volt switch to send electrical signal through this microphone. And as that signal bridges the gap between those two metallic diaphragms that are 1/1000th of an inch apart, as you speak into the microphone and vibrate that diaphragm against the back plate, that varies the voltage, and that variance in voltage is how you convert the sound pressure levels from acoustic sound, moving air particles, into electrical signal. And because it's so sensitive, you can get a very rich response of high end and low end, and so usually these microphones have a very flat frequency response. But these are great for acoustic instruments and for vocals. They're very sensitive. A lot of condenser microphones will have not only a pad to turn the microphone's output down. So if you use this on a drum set or something and it's too loud, you can put a pad on it. Some of these also have EQ filters, maybe like a high pass filter, and various cardioid patterns, which will pick up sound from the front or the back or the sides, or omnidirectional all the way around. So depending on the model and make, these are great microphones and very versatile for a lot of situations and very sensitive. A third type of microphone is the ribbon microphone. This is more similar to a dynamic microphone in ways that it has a magnet powering the induction of sound pressure levels into electrical signal. The way that these microphones work is there is a metallic ribbon that is suspended between two magnets, and as you speak or play music into the microphone, the ribbon will vibrate, in reflection of the sound pressure levels that you're putting into it, and that various variants of the ribbon moving around between those two magnets, much like a dynamic microphone, converts that acoustic energy into electrical signal. Now there's various designs of these things, but they're all pretty similar. If you open them up, you can see the ribbon and you can see the magnets on either side. Most of these microphones function like a dynamic microphone and they don't require phantom power. Some do, like this Sterling mic here actually requires phantom power. Make sure that you check out the manual and you understand if your microphone can handle phantom power or requires phantom power. Some of the older vintage ribbon microphones, putting phantom power through the microphone can actually damage it and burn up the ribbon. So make sure that you understand the proper operation of your ribbon microphones. One other thing about ribbon microphones, they have a nice warm, rich sound. They can be very nice on vocals or some kind of acoustic instrument that you want to capture some of the warmth of it. But they, because there's a ribbon suspended on the upper portion of this microphone, it's bidirectional, meaning that it's going to pick up sound from the front as well as the back. So sometimes using these microphones can introduce phasing issues of the sound from the initial source hitting the mic and then the sound reflecting off the wall and bouncing back on the back end of the mic. You can get some weird phasings, but they can offer you a nice, rich, warm tone and work in a lot of different situations well.